Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. We are doing a live interview with Ipsie. Today it's going to be completely awesome. If you guys did not know, we are both from Inner Sanctum, Writer's Sanctum. You can't really peg a name to this because we do a little bit of everything, right? We write stories. So you've got story writers, you've got authors, people that are releasing books, people that are publishing books. We've got several publishers coming from, even Redfren or Otis, if you've heard of them, have released books from our site. And then you've got people that just want to role play and they just want to hang out. So we are talking with Ipsie today, the co-author to my Pirates Blackheart book that's coming out, and the very big story that we've got going on with Vikings and so forth. And that's what this interview is all about. So we won't waste too much time in getting into it, but definitely ask your questions. We are not going to turn on closed captions, so just no closed caption today, guys. Sorry. I love you guys. If you can't hear me, you know, pick up the YouTube closed captions. They'll be on there in like 24 hours. Let's jump into the Ipsie interview, shall we? And bingo, you should be able to hear me now.
I hear you.
Okay. Hi, Ipsie.
Hi.
Welcome to the interview, then, I guess.
Yeah, right. Welcome. I welcome to you as well.
All right. So, before we do anything, we got a lot to talk about. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. We really do. It's quite a large interview. But before we do any of that, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself and you as an author?
Okay, well, my name is Ipsie. I am 29 years of age. I'm not going to tell you my occupation because I don't want a lot of people knowing. Let's see. As a writer, I just write. I guess that's all about it, all it is. I'm a slow writer, but I write. I don't know what else to say about myself, dude. I like to play games. We do some gaming all the time. I game a lot with Red now. We do a lot of playing of games together. Other than that, I really don't have much else to say.
Okay. How long have you been writing?
Oh, jeez. I've been writing at least 7 years. Yeah.
7 years. And how long have you been writing on, we're going to call it Inner Sanctum, but for those watching, it's either Inner Sanctum or Writer's Sanctum or IS. And you can do a little bit of everything there, right? You can write, you can do stories and publish them, or you can just role play. There's a little bit of everything there. You've got a little bit of fan fiction, a little bit of historical. You've got everything. How long have you been writing on Inner Sanctum?
Like 4 years, 5 years almost.
And what would your impression of Inner Sanctum be?
It's a lot better than the other forum I was on.
The other forum. But what's your impression overall of, like, you know, the whole getting to know other writers? How easy is it for you to find what you're looking for and so forth?
Well, I just look around mostly, and I'm not always open for stories. I'm mostly closed these days because I can't pick up more than just a few because I'm so busy and stuff. But it is not very hard for me to find somebody to write with because nearly everybody on that site wants to write with me. However, I have standards. Everybody has standards. But like I said, everybody's thirsting over me. Everybody wants to write with Ipsie.
Thurston, huh?
Yeah, they thirsting over me hard.
You have recently started writing, well, I wouldn't say recently, it's been going for a while now, a Viking story, correct? Tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about the premise of this Viking story.
The premise of it. I would say it's about Vikings. It's about, two characters. They, I'm terrible with these interviews, by the way, 'cause I don't know what to say.
You're doing fine.
It's about two just very opposite characters from each other, and they basically are forced to marry because she was due to marry someone else, but that didn't go as planned. So now she has to marry the other character, and they're just completely in opposite because, like, I guess you could say they're both very alpha. Is that the word I'm searching for? Very alpha. She's not willing to. Well, I mean, she is willing, but she has to develop a sense of trust before she can break down her walls. But she keeps them up very tight right now. But we have gotten past that, though. We gotten past that part. So those walls have come down very hard.
There is a skeleton behind you. What's the story with the skeleton?
That's my skeleton. His name is Edward.
Edward. And does Edward have a story?
No. He's just been with me everywhere I go.
He's just a story. Okay.
He's just my little skeleton. He's dressed like a tourist today. I usually dress him up differently.
And I see some more fun stuff back there. You've got a pirate ship, it looks like.
Yes, got a pirate ship. I built that myself.
Did you?
Yes,
That's
I did.
very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
When you get into the mindset of writing, right? What is kind of your process to go about? For me, for example, when I need to write, I'll have a cup of coffee, fresh hot coffee, and a smoke, right? And then I need silence, and then I'll feel mood music in the background. How about yourself? What's your process for writing?
Well, it varies. Sometimes I prefer to write in pure silence. I usually have to have a drink with me, maybe some snacks, candy. I'm a big candy person. And I usually do most of my writing at home, but I do it at the school whenever I am not doing anything. So, but that's just that. But I don't do a lot of that there. But my process. So sometimes I sit in silence. If I'm sitting at home, I usually sit in my chair in the living room. It's a nice, comfy chair. And I either turn on my TV, because I like to have background noise. If I'm feeling like I don't need to sit in silence for the day, I'll need some background noise. And usually my go-to background noise is King of the Hill. Love that show. I have seen it a dozen times, like at least 30 times, start to finish.
Now, see, I can't write with anything in the background. I have to have mood music, right? No lyrics at all, unless it's something particular. I'm almost always the mood music.
Yeah. Usually I have to have music too sometimes. If I'm not got my background noise on, and I need like maybe some inspiration or some like make my brain feel like I'm in the to write in that setting, I'll turn on like music similar to the setting. So like for Vikings, it gets like some very like medieval-esque type music.
So tell us a little bit about your protagonist in this Viking story.
So Gwendolyn, she is my fiery little redhead. My fiery little redhead.
And can you tell us anything about Gwendolyn?
She's rather young. Not too young though. She's like 19, I think. And she is a shield maiden. She was a shield maiden at a very young age. She is the only daughter of 4 brothers. Sister, sorry. She is the only sister to 4 brothers.
Getting a fun family chain going on there for a minute.
Yeah, right? What else was there? What else is there to say about her? She's a very strong personality. She doesn't like to be told no very often, but she'll accept it. What else is there to say about her? She's a firecracker, too. She's got quite a mouth.
When you're creating a character, or a protagonist in this case, when you're creating your protagonist, do you base that protagonist on anybody that you know? Do you snip at personalities around you in real life, like friends, people, family, maybe somebody you encountered on the street, or is it all just poof, imagination?
The first thing I do is I take to Google and I find like an image. I search through images for hours sometimes, it just depends. And when I see an image that particularly just screams, like, hey, use me, I'm like, yeah, that's the one. So then I choose that image, and then I look at the image, in further detail, not just like a glimpse, and like break it down from there. So like, I'll be like, oh, okay, this character looks like this, she would be this person, or she would be like this, or she would have this type of personality, that kind of thing. However, most of my characters have they have distinguishing marks on them. I always leave distinguishing marks on my characters, that way I can tell the difference between them. So, and I also kind of give them similar personality traits to myself, because it's just easier for me to write a character that has kind of the same mind frame as me. Because like if I write somebody who's like just straight up just obedient and everything, I can't do that, man. So I have to have something to some personality traits to relate to write it.
Okay. I guess, what would you think the most difficult part of writing a story is?
Finding the words. I have a lot of problems trying to put words on paper. Well, I shouldn't paper. It's in the box. I have problems putting words in the box. Like, I find myself for hours just staring at the box. And I'm like, what am I going to type in this box? And then, like, I read through. I take it at one paragraph at a time. That way I can reply to everything within the post. It's for anybody, not just one particular person. So I take it one paragraph at a time, and if one paragraph is irrelevant, I'll just skip over it. But the hardest part is just putting the words on the paper. And I also struggle a lot with ERP, but we won't get into that.
Okay. At the beginning of the Viking story, you had a huge process that you went through. There was just so much happening at the beginning of this story. And avoiding my part of things, tell us a little bit more about Gwendolyn and the process that she needed to do in order to, meet the tops, and what was originally going on, and how that whole thing went down.
So, Gwendolyn and her family came from a different village, several, I guess, like maybe less than 100 miles from the top village. So her father had fallen on hard times. Like their village was made up of nothing but nearly women and children. There was a very select few of men. So they needed, more protection. So they reached out to the Toff clan in hopes to make an alliance. Which they did come to an alliance. Sixten had lost his wife, I'm guessing. He had many wives, I'm guessing. And he was in search of another wife, and he agreed to marry Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn is a very, she loves her people, and she will do anything for her people, basically. So this marriage, whether she liked it or not, she was gonna go through with it. She would like to marry for love, but she knows that it's not possible. So she, just her father's like, we're leaving. We're going to a new village that has, good defense, warriors that can help us, wealth, all this stuff, and she's cool with it.
So a marriage by political standards.
Yes, that's what that one was about. They were going to build an alliance from that marriage.
What would you say are some of the strongest story elements or good elements that need to be in a story in order for the story to flow properly all the way through?
Elements.
Yeah, like, something that if you picked up a book and you were reading it, you would expect to see this in a book. And if it wasn't in the book, it wouldn't be a very good one.
Well, I like to have drama in my books. I love drama. Whether it's even just like small gossip, I need to see it. You know what I mean? I need small gossip turns. I need problems. I need it all. It just makes it more exciting for me, and I can also kind of like, guess what characters might die from this situation, or something might happen to them. You know what I mean? Like, I just love that. I love the sense of there's too much drama in here. I love it. Drama.
So drama would be your number one element.
Yes, I need drama. I need it.
In your story, this Viking story, you have Sixtine kind of has this whole incident where he offs himself, and you end up having Gwendolyn get engaged, or proposed, I should say, blood oath to Sixtine's son, Bjorn, right? How did that whole thing work for Gwendolyn? What was the process in that?
Well, she was not expecting it, for one. She knew that there was a problem with Sixten that wouldn't be fixed. Now, however, she was willing to marry Sixten, even with this problem. She was willing to hide it from everyone, keep it a secret. She's just that type of person. She's very dedicated she wanted her people to be safe. That was
and that's
why they
because
were there.
Sixtine you're hiding the fact that he was impotent at his age, right? And in the Viking culture, that is a huge thing. Now, your Viking story is very historical, yes?
Yes.
So impotence in a Viking society is pretty much death. It's either die on the battlefield or off yourself to the gods, because there's really no middle ground there. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so keep going. Just wanted to clarify why she was keeping secrets.
Well, she was willing to keep that secret because she was afraid that if this had come out, that there would be no alliance made from this. They would have to go back to where they came from.
Thanks for the follow.
And she didn't want to go back. And now her family wouldn't have minded going back, but it just wasn't safe there. They were being raided so often, and they were just losing people back and back. So there wasn't enough men to protect just the village, what was left of it, that is. So she had to figure out a way to kind of keep them there. Now, she wasn't expecting Sixten to make a blood oath. At first, she had thought it was her that was the problem between the two of them. This was way before Sixten even thought it was him, which he believed it was her too. So, she, had went out and sought intimacy in some other people, which those people were able to just function as they should. And she was like, well, it's not me.
What
And
kind
if
of
you,
what kind of genre would you classify this book as?
well, I mean, it's a historical, but it's more like creative liberty historical, I would say. I mean, it's got a historical bits, but it's also got its moments where it's not completely accurate.
So
Um,
romantic historical romance?
Romance? Yeah, I guess that's what it would be. Romance, historical romance. Yeah, that'd be it.
When you're sitting down and coming up with these ideas, what comes first, the plot or the protagonist?
Um, it really just depends. Like most of my ideas just like come if I'm like writing something, and then I'm like, well, what if this happened? And my brain's like, huh, what if that did happen? And then like I just kind of mention it to my partners, and then if the partner likes it, then we build off of it. So usually it's just on the whim type of thing. It's not something I actually sit down and think about. It's like, hey, what if this happened? And then my partner's like, oh my god, that'd be great. And I'm like, hey, let's discuss how this could happen.
Right?
You know, that's where we would go. So.
Okay, so your plot first, protagonist second.
Yeah, plot always comes first.
Okay. When your character, your protagonist goes through and finds out, the father that she was intended to marry offs themselves with a blood oath that she's now bound to marry his son, who had tried to remain celibate and leave the clan completely, right? Or tribe, tried to leave completely, now he's stuck because he got blood oath to marry Gwendolyn. So with that in place, Gwendolyn kind of goes, I don't know, like a little bonkers. Right.
She runs.
And she saw visions, she saw crows, she got in fights. What was all that about?
She was super emotional. There was a small time that her and Sixten had got to know each other. Now she's willing to get to know like stick with that person. So she was like, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. So she had, completely just broke down those walls and was like, I'm going to be his wife. So she's going to act like one, basically. So.
And that was a pretty significant age difference too, right? I mean, Sixten was what, 60 something years old.
Yeah, and she was like 19. But see, that's very common in Vikings. They marry all the time.
I'm sorry for the interruption. Just wanted to point it out. It was a significant age difference.
It's good. There was a big old age difference. She was willing to go with it, though. He was gonna die in like 2 years anyway, so she's like, oh, maybe get one kid out of it, but that'd be alright. So she, when he like kills himself right there, cause like they had a discussion before this. She had come to him and she's like, listen, I think the problem is you, and he's like, it is me. And she's like, holy crap. Like she wasn't expecting him to agree with her. He was expecting him to defend his whole thing. And he was, I guess they had kind of like a heart-to-heart moment almost. And then she had slipped up and mentioned that she had been with Bjorn is his middle child. Yes. Like, but he's not the youngest, but he's like there. He's like before the youngest. Right? Is that right?
Bjorn is the eldest, I believe. No, Bjorn is second eldest. Second.
Yeah.
Eldest.
Okay. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I got him swapped. I got him and his sister swapped. So she had mentioned that she had been with Bjorn, which was his son that refused to marry. Dude was gonna leave, and Sixten was like. He's like, he had this gift from the gods. Like, you could hear the holy music coming down on him in that moment. Like, he was like, holy cow, you're lying, right? And she's like, no. And he's like, this has got to be the thing. You have to marry him. This is it. And then she's like, I don't know, man. He's very, like, stuck to his point. We're just going to leave him be. And he's like, no. They go downstairs. Shit hits the fan, man. Like, he's like, calling him out. He's like, you will marry her. And he's like, no. And he said, I will make it possible. And just blood oath right there in front of everybody.
So she goes, when she runs off, she sees this crow, and she imagines to herself, which was quite common in the Viking era, that this crow is Sigstein, guiding her. Correct?
He wants her to come back.
Thank you very much. Wants her to go back where?
Back to the village because she had ran off. He knew, well, I speak from this as the crow being Sixton's perspective here. He knew that if her running off like this could be considered abandoning to some degree, and that the village people would not be very accepting of this behavior. However, they did know that the Thorsten family was very odd in their sense. They had odd traditions. Their sister is a shield maiden, and they still treat her like that she is their sister rather than an equal. So they're very protective of her. So like they knew that there was some strange traditions there.
When you're sorry. When you're just not writing, when you're not writing books and you're not writing stories, do you read?
No, I don't read actually. I guess you could say I read a little. Depends if I buy a book.
Do you have some favorite authors?
No, I don't. Actually, I just read whatever I think is. I'll go to the store if I'm in the mood to read something. I'll go to the store and just browse the entire aisles forever. And I'm like pulling books off and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Or I'll read the back and be like, oh, that's cool. I'll take that one too. So it's just mostly me just...
How about on Inner Sanctum? Do you have a favorite author on Inner Sanctum?
I do not read other people's stories on the site because I am the type that can be influenced by other people's characters. And I don't want that to happen, so I stick to myself there. Now I have, glanced at a couple of things, but I do not fully read them start to finish. I just can't.
So, moving right along, she decides to go for... Huh?
I noticed somebody is talking about my skeleton here in the background.
That's right. Akasha Bringer has asked if anybody noticed the skeleton. We have learned about the skeleton. The skeleton's name is Edward, if I remember right.
Yes.
And it is in its traveling gear today. And there is no other story to it.
He's a tourist. He's just been with me forever, okay? I was like young and I'm like, I saw this at the store during Halloween time and I was like, I want this skeleton. And they were like, okay. So the skeleton got bought and he's been with me forever. And I dressed him up, but today he's a tourist.
When Gwendolyn decides, she goes through her trial of combat she got in a big fight, she figures her stuff out, she goes to Bjorn and it's like, I'm ready to accept this. And this is the first time that we really see their personalities clash, like really hard, right? Because Gwendolyn made a big scene about walking out, correct? And
yes.
And if I'm understanding, she wanted him to stop her, and he didn't.
Yes, she was hoping he would. And because she had thought perhaps he had felt something for her whenever they had shared their moments the night before. But that she was very wrong. He was not. He was like, nah. This blood oath means shit to me. So.
What would you say the most fun that you've had with the story you're writing so far is? What is the moment that kept you on the edge of your seat? The most enjoyable moment of the story so far?
Well, we ain't even there yet, but the wedding. I was so excited for the wedding. I have been pre-planning that wedding in my head for months, man.
It was very well written. It was very well written.
Yeah, that was a plan for months, man. I've had that for months in my head.
When you're writing a story, I assume that you have an ending in mind.
I do.
Do you ever plan on writing a sequel to your stories?
No. I prefer to kill my characters in all of the stories. However, in the pirate story, that did not happen. I wanted it to happen, but it did not happen. for this one, I do plan for her to die. How? That is yet to be determined.
Okay. When Gwendolyn was finally pushing really hard, she's got all this other stuff going on, right? She's got two different people that are trying to court her, both of which are pretty stalker-like, right? They're kind of creepers. And she's got these two pushing and pushing and pushing. She finally decides to go off and get Bjorn, and he's doing a mountain thing where he's going up to the mountains trying to find his thing, and Gwendolyn chases after him. What was all that mindset going up into the mountains and that whole process there?
She wanted to get out of the village because she was being stalked by Bjorn's brother. And because boy, he was obsessed. If he's got one hell of a obsession. So she wanted to get away from him. He's the more dangerous of the two that are kind of stalking her. However, we've got plans for the other stalker to become more dangerous, which will probably drive her away as well. But she wanted to get away from them. So I guess since we're talking about it, the other stalker is her brother. And in the Viking culture, it is not right for brother and sister to come together in that sense, and they did. And
it's a sign of the it's the sign, what do they call it?
Ragnarok.
Of Ragnarok. That's right. It's in their in their literature, their religious text, that it's a sign of the Ragnarok.
Yes. So her brother has basically what's the word? He's blackmailing her. There we go. That's what it is. He's blackmailing her, and in very just awful ways. It's about their father. He used her father against her. So and as we know, Gwendolyn is very for her family, and she doesn't want anything. No, bad words said. No suspicions. No nothing. Just thrown on her family or her clan. So she does everything in her power to make sure that does not happen. So she had to basically agree to her brother's advances, and she knew it was wrong. So she was like, I've got to get away. She's like, I can't stay here anymore. She can't look at her brother. She can't take the chances of Sigmund just popping up out of fucking nowhere. So because he's good like that. So she just goes into the woods. She's like, I'm gonna go after Bjorn, just off the whim. She's like, I'm gonna go into the mountains. And then her other brothers are like, are you crazy? You're not prepared for something like that. She's like, I'm doing it. And she goes.
All right, just a second. We've got a couple of questions. Akasha wants to know if it goes character for your inspiration, if you go photo to plot, or if you go plot to photo.
I go photo to plot.
And then Dell is saying that this is the first time he's catching, or they're catching, interview chatting stream. So, welcome, Dell. This is kind of one of those things that we do. Okay, so moving right along then. Let's see what else we've got here. Do you do research when you're writing? Do you research what you're about to write?
Yeah, I do, actually. I know some stuff about Vikings, but I don't know a lot, so I have to often check the, Google and kind of be like, oh, is this how accurate, or what is it that they do, especially for the wedding. I spent a lot of time making sure that wedding was completely accurate. However, there was one thing that wasn't accurate to the time because I wanted it to be in there. So I put it in there, and that was the bone crown. They usually make floral crowns. But they did turn it into a floral crown, but I made it a tradition that it was a bone crown instead of a floral crown because I like bones. So throw bones. She even had bones in her hair. So yeah, that's completely inaccurate. So don't call me out on that because I know.
So you do a lot of history research then?
Yes, I do. I have to make sure most of my stuff is correct.
When you're writing, right, and we'll get back into the Viking story in just a moment. When you're writing, what would you say the most important aspect of writing is in your mindset?
That both well, I shouldn't say both parties. I should say all parties because there could be more than one. All parties are enjoying themselves, because if one is enjoying themselves and the other is, it makes it harder for the other person to enjoy themselves, because they're like, oh, I'm not interested, but I'm forcing myself to keep interested, but it's not working. So I would say that the importance to me has got to be both parties being interested, and communication between those two parties.
Akasha is saying this is the first time they have been on the stream as well. Welcome, Akasha. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we've got Gwendolyn. She's come. We've got her reason for leaving. We've been through some of her past now. She's in the mountains with Bjorn. She's trying to keep up with him. How did that go? Right? Because they were in the mountains for a couple of months now, right? And this was not an easy trail. It was in the middle of winter. There was mountain climbing. There was freehand climbing, right? There was all kinds of stuff. How did that whole process go?
So, her brothers were right. She was ill prepared. She went up with the most lightest of clothing that she had on, that she left from the village. She didn't even bother dressing. She had no sense of shelter. She had some food and water. She did stop at a stream where she had a reflection moment, where she knew that what she had done with her brother is going to haunt her for the rest of her life. So she had a reflection moment there. She moved on. So she had water and food, but the difference between the village and the mountains is the mountains were far more colder and had snow. So the village didn't, because it's coming into spring, so the snow's melting away, but the mountain hasn't quite melted away yet, and there was a big old blizzard. So she's just ill prepared. So she was very determined to find him, but her process of finding him was just pitiful. Poor girl could barely climb. She couldn't do anything. She was falling. She was tripping. But she managed to find Bjorn.
That is true. What do you think the hardest scene, I should say, is to write? What is the hardest scene for you to write?
Ugh. My hardest...
Is it erotica? I'm guessing it's erotica.
Yes, it is. I struggle so hard with those. It's because I am asexual, so I don't really have a mindset of that. So me, like, coming up with the right words to say and use is like, oh, is this correct? Is this the correct term? Is this the right way of using it? And then I'm like, and I read it back through and I'm like, this is cringe, man. I can't do this.
Cringe. Okay, well, when I'm writing any kind of erotic scene, any kind of romance scene, it doesn't matter. I'm not in the scene, right? I don't visualize the scene at all, actually. I treat the scene very similar to combat, right? Where are their hands? How are they breathing? What are they feeling? What are they doing? It's all combat oriented, right? And then it's finding the right words. Well, I want to say it this way, so what's another way to say that? I want to do this, but how do I say that differently? And so it's so analytical for me that there's no way I could visualize the romance scene that I'm writing, because I'm just so completely out of it, trying to figure out all these different parts and moving, and it's very complicated. So I can't understand how that could be one of your harder scenes to write. I can definitely understand that.
Oh yeah, it's hard for me. But I don't struggle that much with combat. Now, I have tried to look at erotica through a combat setting. I mean, I've done it, and I'm not entirely terrible at it, but for me, I had to struggle with it, okay? So, but, yeah, I mean, I do a lot better with combat scenes, which I'm excited.
I really have, this Superman fucking curl going on, man.
I see
driving me nuts. I hate it, dude.
I know.
Gosh.
That stuff back, man.
What would you say if any of these characters, any of your non-player characters, any of your protagonists, which character do you believe is the closest or most similar to yourself?
Oh boy. Hyor, actually.
And that's from another one of your stories.
No. Hyor. It's Gwendolyn's oldest brother.
Oh, you know why I didn't recognize the name? I call him Hjor. Hjor.
Hyor.
Hjor is how it's pronounced to me. So when I say it, I pronounce it Hjor. Okay.
He's the most relatable character to me. He's a fun-loving, just giant man, and he has this very straightforward personality. That's me. Straight down to a T.
In the story, we see that Gwendolyn really has this struggle when she's going up the mountainside, right? She's going up the mountainside. We see this huge struggle, and then especially when she has to freehand up, which is quite different than the movies that we're watching nowadays. I mean, if you look at the Rings of Power, she's climbing a mountain barehanded with a dagger, right? But in your story, Gwendolyn, a shield maiden who has proven herself multiple times in combat, really struggled to get up this mountain, this snowy mountainside, which I thought was extremely realistic. She had no history of climbing freehand like that. She had no upper body strength in that nature that she could be able to lift herself up with one arm, especially with a dagger. So I found that very realistic. But how did you come up with the emotion that came with it, though? Like, there was so much emotion in that moment. How did you do that?
Well, I take inspiration from like movies and television shows, for example. I also been watching some YouTube videos about some people getting stuck in places that they shouldn't have gone, and there was one about the climber that got wedged down into this canyon type thing. He got like his arm stuck. He had to end up cutting his arm off because of that. I think you've heard this story before. It was like very popular like back a few years ago. So I kind of based it off of a similar experience to that, because he was doing the same thing, just climbing, free-handed, he had very little supplies, so it was very much based off of something like that. So for her, yeah, it was very realistic, because she has never climbed a mountain before. So in most times in the Viking culture, climbing a mountain means you are seeking to become a berserker in some sense. Or at least some kind of relatable traits in that.
I believe Bjorn was trying to commune with the gods, right?
Yes.
Get to a private area to commune higher.
Yeah, because he wanted to curse them, and he knew it was that wasn't it was frowned upon in society. So cursing them was good.
If you met Gwendolyn face to face, real life, right in front of you, would you get along with Gwendolyn?
No.
Why not?
Because she is too fucking stubborn. Because, it's like, come on, she's so stubborn. Like, you tell her to do something, she's like, I'm not gonna do that. And I'm like, whoa, like, this back up a sec. I would just slap her. As soon as I met her, I'd be like, real quick, beside the face.
So, if you did meet her, though, what would you tell her? If you could tell her one thing, what would it be?
Quit being so damn stubborn.
Quit being so stubborn. That's cool. Let's see. We've got some more questions. We do have quite a bit of questions. I warned you it was going to be a long interview because we're doing a back and forth here.
I'm excited.
Let's see.
But the mountain excursion, yeah, I was telling you about that. That was very emotional, and she was scared, man. She thought she was gonna die when she fell, so she was like spilling her heart out right there. She's like, I'm gonna die. Tell my family that I did not die like this.
Have you ever traveled and then through your travels incorporated your experience into your writing?
With Pirates, I did. Because I
Pirates
actually
Blackheart. That is one of our books that is coming out. It's in the editing process, but it's coming. It's coming.
But I did base my traveling off of that, because I did take a cruise to the Caribbean a few years back, and I went to we stopped in Nassau, where we were going. Where the hell were we going? I don't remember where we were going, but we stopped in Nassau, and that's where I wanted to get off at. So I got off there. That's where the pirates were. So I was like me being all excited. So I was all there. I was for it. And everybody else is, all my family members are going off to go swim with the stingrays and all this other shit. And I'm like, I'm going on the historical tour of the forts. I'm going on the historical tour to the museum. I'm taking the glass bottom boat in the bay so I can see all the sunken ships and weapons and stuff. Oh, I was all for the historical business. So whenever I got there, like whenever I wrote most of those scenes, especially in Nassau, I based it, like the stuff around the characters based on what I saw in Nassau. So like the flowers, I saw these hibiscus flowers, which my Betsy, she did pick one from the bush and put it in her hair. So she, like, it's most of that story that is based off of my travel in Nassau.
So you have traveled before then, for
Yeah.
stories. With with Gwendolyn, she gets up to the top of the mountain. She's working things out with Bjorn. She goes inside a cave, and there's a huge wolf fight in this cave. How did you work that into everything?
Again, it was one of those spur of the moment ideas. They're like, Bjorn had told her that there's a cave nearby and that they should find it because the blizzard's going to destroy them if they don't. So she gets there, and I'm like, sitting there just writing it out, and I'm like, I'm just gonna write it out as just a empty, abandoned cave with perhaps maybe some old fire pit, something like that. And then, of course, I'm sitting there, and my brain goes, what if there were wolves? And my brain's like, huh, that's a good idea. And then I came straight to you, and I was like, what if there were wolves in this cave? And then you were like, you know what, that's a good idea. And then we discussed how this would go down and happen. So there were wolves in there. There were like 12 of them. And she had the bow and arrow. And Bjorn was, he had the axe. So, they went in there. He told her that she needed to get up against the wall and take down as many as she could with her arrows. And she did just that. She followed his instructions straight to the T. She was like, she got up against that wall. She pulled arrow after arrow, just downing all the wolves coming toward them. And the last one that she did not get the chance to shoot with an arrow actually hurt her. It collapsed onto her arm, and she struggled trying to get that off.
Have you go ahead.
She ended up using her axe for that one. She just started axing it and to get it off, and then she just killed it the rest of the way. But after that, she told Bjorn, she's like, I'm down, man. You're gonna have to finish the rest. So.
Have you ever taken a risk with a character and not had it pay off? Like, I really want this to go this way. I'm gonna do this, and then it just doesn't work out the way you saw it working out at all.
With Betsy. Like I said, I wanted her dead.
But in your Viking story, have you taken any risk like that?
No, I haven't come across a character that's taken any risk like that. Well, I guess now I have taken a risk, but nothing has happened of it yet because it hasn't surfaced. So, I am taking a risk here. Hjor had retrieved Gwendolyn from Bjorn's home and brought her back because they had not been married yet. And that night, he spent the entire night nearly watching the house that Gwendolyn stayed in. And he knew she was going to leave. He had the night feeling that she was going to leave and go back to Bjorn. He just wanted to see her leave. However, he never saw her leave, but he did see somebody enter the house. But he doesn't know who that person was because it's too dark, couldn't see that far away. But that is the risk I'm taking. I have no idea what's going to happen between this because it's not come out yet. But Gwendolyn's going to end up mentioning to this person that we can't do this anymore because someone saw us. So.
If this story was made into a movie, right? It's turned into a full-fledged movie. Who do you believe would play your protagonist the best? Which actress do you think would play Gwendolyn the best?
Kiernan Shipka.
Now, I don't know who that is. I have to look that up, actually. Who did
Kiernan
you say?
Kiernan Shipka. She played in Mad Men. She played the little girl in Mad Men. She played
see her.
She played Giora in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She played Sabrina in the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
I will
I
grab a
love,
quick image of her and throw her up on screen.
I love Quinn. I love
Probably not her
Karen.
most flattering image, but we'll slap it up here real quick. Hold on, just
Karen and Shipko.
that way everybody can see. That
Yeah,
is who
she's not
she's
a very.
talking about. That's who she's
She's not a
talking
very.
about. The
She's
Sabrina
not a
chick.
very. Yeah, she's not a very well-known actress, but I like her.
I think she's pretty well known. Okay. Let me so they go back into the town. You've mentioned this. They climb back down the mountain. They're together now, right?
Yes.
What did the process that you did for this wedding that happened next? This was a huge deal. This wedding was absolutely huge.
So again, I took to Google to make sure I had everything as historically accurate as possible because I did take some creative liberties. I wanted they do bathing scenes for the women. The women go to they get a hot bath in the steam bath, and then they go to the river and dive in the cold ass fucking river to finish off their bathing ritual. After that, the women kind of dress the bride up. They make her pretty, traditional wedding ish. For the men, however, you didn't do it because we already kind of established that he was given this weapon. But for the men, their wedding rituals would be they would have to travel to a family grave where all their family, like grandfathers or whatever, they bury weapons. The Vikings bury weapons of anything of value to keep them safe. So he would have had to gone to this grave and dig up that sword and bring that sword and present it to his wife. So, but we skipped over that. You said that the sword was each of his. Oh, I can't talk. Each of his siblings were given a sword from their father, so that's cool. Works for me. Creative liberties, dude. Remember?
We have. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening. Go on.
We have a lot of new people joining the Inner Sanctum every single day. Some people are looking for role play. Some people are looking for co-authors to write books like we are. Some people are just looking to write stories that are not role played, but they're story driven. What advice would you give to a new writer or to people that want to write in general? What would your advice to those people be?
To not feel intimidated. There are a lot of very just really good people that can write good on there. And I've heard from multiple people that they are very intimidated by these people because they feel inferior to them.
Yes, I have recently encountered somebody that intimidates the absolute shit out of me. No question. They intimidate me to no end. I've never seen anybody write that much or that well or that use that much vocabulary so perfectly all the way through. 16,000 words, absolutely epic from beginning to end, intimidated to the max. So I agree. It's very easy to get intimidated.
Yeah, so yeah, just don't feel intimidated by the people. Don't let that stop you. Just go for it. Just put yourself out there and don't give up because if the moment you feel intimidated, you're gonna leave. So.
What's your process for coming up with character names or non-character names?
A lot of my inspiration for character names come from like video games or even TV shows that I've seen that are like super obscure, and I'm like, that's a nice name. And I write it down. Like I have a little list of names in my phone that I just kind of reference every now and then that I use. Also, for the Viking story, though, I just kind of Google Viking names because, like, I want to use some names that are, like, popular for the time, especially for the non-playable characters. So, they get very common names.
Do you ever get emotional when you're writing?
Yes, I have, actually. That was with the Pirates story. I haven't got emotional yet with the Viking story, but the Pirate story, I got emotional with that. I cried I cried when Butcher died. It was so sad. I
If
was
you
like,
had to
no!
choose, if you had to choose one, what would it be? An ebook, audiobook, or printed book?
Printed. I
Printed
like
book.
to have the physical copy.
Hardbound or soft?
Doesn't matter.
Do you have other writers in your life, in your family, or in your circle of friends that write as well?
I do. She is my aunt. She has actually published a couple of books. I don't know the name of them. I was going to ask her what the names of her books were. She's got like 3, I think. But yeah, she writes. I think most of hers are romance novels. So
We're nearing the end of our interview now. What would you say people should look forward to if they're jumping into the Viking story? They're jumping into this story. By the way, what's the proper name of your Viking story?
it's called Vikings Blood. Yes.
Blades of Blood. Yes.
Yeah.
What is something you would say to people that are jumping into it now? They're just now jumping into the story.
Oh, y'all need to go back to the beginning because you ain't gonna understand anything of what's happening. Because it's their wedding night, and what's about to happen is like, what did I just read, and why is this happening? Because her brother's gonna be outside the home listening to what's going on, and this is gonna make him very angry. And this is what turns him against her and just continues to blackmail her on a whole new level. So
Of evilness.
Yeah, so y'all need to go back. That way you can get why he's doing this. Because if you come into it like this, you're gonna be like, that guy's a fucking creeper, which he is. He is. But still.
Okay, so I think we've kind of reached the end of our interview here, and I just want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about Inner Sanctum and some people that might be interested in writing at Inner Sanctum. And Ipsie's here. We can answer your questions if you have them. Please post them. I will see them, so we can answer your questions as they come. We do have a book that is being edited and released. It's called The Pirates Blackheart. That book was written and done on the Inner Sanctum. You can find all kinds of stuff on Inner Sanctum. It's not just writing like I do, right? I tend to view what I do as writing. I don't view it any other way. It's noveling with a co-author. But there's other types. There's single stories where an author will just get on there and they'll write a big giant story and they'll say, hey, give me some feedback. How can I improve this? What can I do here? There's role play for people that are just looking for a good time. They just want to toss some ideas back and forth with people and kind of spark their imagination and get back into creative writing. And then there's novelists like myself and Ipsie here that enjoy writing books and making them into books. Inner Sanctum is 18 plus, and there's a good reason for that. But it is not a purely erotic or romance story. In fact, that particular section or genre of story is quite small in comparison to the rest of the site. So do please bear that in mind. It's a very small section that you'd find me in. I tend to write romantic horror is where I stay. And the historical romance that I'm writing now, I've sort of already warned Ipsie that it's going to get pretty dark, right? It's going to get dark. I'm a horror writer. I write horror. So this is going to go in a very dark direction. And she was cool with it, because if it was just historical romance, I wouldn't be able to hang. I'm all about the horror, right? What would you say to promote and help Inner Sanctum for people that don't know it or want to know more about it?
Well, you mentioned there's other things there, which there is. I've seen people post artwork. I've seen people post music stuff. Like I have a friend, he does a lot of music stuff, and he's posted a couple of his things there.
Oh, that's true. We do have the promotional section now where people can promote their books. We've got another person that promotes their their music, scene music to go with books and stuff, that you can get their books. We've got all kinds of promotional stuff there. That's true.
Yeah, so like it's not just writing. Like there's people that come there just to to show off their artwork, or like you said, promote things, and we allow that to some extent. Let's see what else is there. Wow, there's just a lot. I mean, most of it, the majority of it is writing.
We do have competitions, right? We do have monthly competitions that you can absolutely take part in. There's no judge. It's kind of like NaNoWriMo, except it's bi-monthly. Do check it out. It's a lot of fun. You can find the link below, both on YouTube and on my Twitch. Do the YouTube likey things and do the Twitch follow things. Here's the little decal to make that happen. Oh no, it's not gonna happen. Never mind then. And this has been an interview with Ipsie for the new story that they are writing, Vikings Blood and Swords, right? Or is it Blood? Blades and Blood. Blades and Blood. My bad.
Blades of Blood.
Blades of Blood, yes.
Yes.
Blades of Blood. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Thank you for being part. If you have any questions, please post them. I will pass them along to Ipsie as they come. And I wish you all the very best. Take care, everybody. Maybe.